Okay, so I've got the first floor walls starting to be set out and lining up with my ground floor walls. I just thought I'd show you quickly the floor plan there. I've left it the way I had it before, in other words, not properly lined up, and you can tell when I'm in this course display that the drawing file is just slightly out of alignment with my walls. If you aren't sure and you want to get a better look at that, try thin lines, which hides your line weights so that you can see things more clearly, and that can help sometimes. And so with my AutoCAD drawing selected, I just wanted to go over the move command because this is one that you can easily skip over. So I've selected the drawing, and now I'm going to click the move button. So rather than just trying to drag this thing, if you click the move button, then you can give a base point, and so I'll pick it up on the corner there by snapping exactly to that endpoint, and then I can snap to the corner of my wall. Now, it should give it to me, but I don't see the endpoint symbol there, which I want. So to force it, you can use Tab to cycle through, just like you do when you're selecting, all the different options. So there, I'm just pressing Tab until I get that endpoint symbol to come up, and that is going to do it precisely. And so now I can see that the rest of it lines up pretty well. Looking down here, that's all lining up precisely, and that's the important thing. The reason it didn't line up initially is because I lined up with the stairwell at the back there, and it hasn't been drawn the same on both the AutoCAD drawings. That's common with AutoCAD drawings. They're not taken from a 3D model, so because they're independent 2D drawings, they can be different. But if you use your judgment, you usually can work out where the problems are. And again, just think about how you're lining things up in Revit, so it's easier for you to work with. And so I have my drawing now where I want it to be, and then I'm going to pin that so it doesn't move. And my other drawing file, I'll do the same thing in my ground floor. And that's right, exactly. Yeah. So and that's important at this stage because I want to now set up the grid references based on this drawing. So again, I've got the walls there showing over the top of my drawing, so I'm going to go back to Fine to make it see-through, and I can see with the columns there where the grid lines can go. Right, so you've got the grid tool on the datum panel. Right, so levels and grids do similar things. And you've probably seen reference planes as well. They're also used for similar things, basically to give you reference points or lines to help set out other physical elements. So a grid is just another kind of reference, and generally used for columns. So here with the grid tool, I'm going to start it on the left so that it counts from that side. And yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you can do it from the midpoint on these, but we also want piers or grids at the end, so I'm going to do a grid line for that also. And this one, because it's not the same as the others, I'm going to do that from the edge of the wall. And then I'll just take it, I'm actually going to go up from there, because I want the bubble to be at the top. So that's where it's going to put my 1 at the top there. Using the grip there, I'm going to stretch it down so that it goes below the building, something like that. And then I can draw another one the same way. So the next one I'll draw using the midpoint of that column, and I'm going to come up, and you'll see it's a bit like a level. It's going to give me an extension line to line up with the previous one. And then again, I'll extend it down. Right, just getting the right thing. So again, it goes down far enough. Okay, so I could keep drawing grids that way, but you probably can imagine it's going to be quicker if I can just copy one that I've already made. So I've pressed escape twice to do that, and now I'll select that grid bubble, or the grid line, and with the copy tool, I'm going to do the same thing as I just did with move. So copy and move work in a similar way, and they're tools that people maybe don't spend enough time on because you can move things quickly or copy them quickly just by dragging. So you might have seen that when you hold down Control and drag, that copies, or if you just drag something, that will move it. So they're the quick ways of copying and moving.
So you don't have to press copy, you can go Control.
Exactly.
Click.
Yep. Click and drag, and that's a good quick way.
And keep holding it? Or?
Yeah, then just let go when you're done.
Okay.
Yep. And so that'll always work. But if you want to have more control or more precision, then you need to know about these tools you have in the modify panel, and they both work in the same way. So again, with copy, the copy tool, it'll ask me for a base point first, or a start point. So that's where I want to pick it up, and that's going to be with the midpoint or the intersection on that grid line, where I started drawing it before. And now I can go over to the midpoint on this next column. Now notice it's not telling me because it's also wanting to tell me it's horizontal, but I know that's the midpoint. So you can easily copy that way. And if I click on the copy button again, I can repeat that, but this time I'll tick multiple. And so I can just keep snapping to each of those midpoints, and that's a nice quick way of copying all of those columns. No, no. Oh, so just it's an option you get when you click on the copy button. Okay, so that's quickly put in all my grid lines. Notice it numbers them automatically. And then you could have grids going the other way, really just for consistency. We don't have very many columns in the other direction, but again, it doesn't hurt just to make it graphically a little bit consistent. So in this case, I'm going to make a new grid line, just with the grid tool again. I'll use pick lines this time just to show you something different. And I'm going to pick the inside of my wall there. That's as good a point as any for my grid. And notice it's put the grid bubble to the right, and it's number 11. I want that to go on the left-hand side, so I'll tick there instead, and I can make it A. Turn this end off. And so now I want to copy that grid line and have it centered or in the middle of this wall, which I'll need to set up. So I'm going to just copy that grid line. Down to the wall. Maybe I'll look in the first floor plan, or sorry, the ground floor plan, and see if there's anything to help me there. And there probably isn't. All we know is that that wall's 400, so that's a good way of working out the center line. So I can select my grid line now, click the move button. I'm going to click a base point anywhere, and then moving the mouse in the direction I want it to go, I can type in 200, and that's one way of moving it down 200. So it's a lot like AutoCAD actually, the way you can move and copy things. And so it's important to know how to do those things with some precision. And then also have a look at the way the grid bubbles and other things turn out. You can see here that I've got to go and turn it to the other end in each of those views. So I'll just copy the that last grid bubble now. Right, so all sorts of tricks for drawing grid lines, but essentially they are just a lot like reference planes. And so you can see now that they're showing in all of those views, from the ground floor plan, level 1, and then in section view. Again, we've got those grid lines showing. You can easily hide them in any of those views if they're getting in the way, but they're really handy at first for things like the columns. So, looking in the level 1 plan with the drawing, we can see the position of those columns. So, I'm going to just load in the column that we need. It's, what, so they've drawn it 380 by, well, we'll just do it as the projection, so 380 by 120.
Oh, so it wouldn't be as thick as the wall.
Well, in reality they would. They'd be engaged piers. So they'd be engaged into that wall.
Yeah.
And, yeah. But we'll just do the part that's projecting from the wall. So, yeah, so I'll just use the column tool for that. So you've got, under the drop down there, you've got two kinds of columns, structural and architectural. And if you can, use structural columns all the time. Architectural columns actually aren't very good. They're really unnecessary when you want moulded or sculptural columns. So, you know, your classical orders and all of those things, Doric and Ionic or Ionian, if you want to do those. But otherwise, use structural columns. So firstly, make sure it's on vertical column, and then you can go to Load Family, and they're in the Structural Columns folder, not in Columns. So not columns, in Structural Columns, and then we'll use Concrete, and then we have Concrete Square, no, sorry, Concrete Rectangular, we want. Okay, so that's loaded in this basic rectangular column, but the sizes aren't there. So it was 380 by 120. Yep. So if we go to Edit Type, Duplicate, put that size in. So 380 by 120 is the name. 120, and then I need to put those measurements in here. So doesn't really matter which order. Make it this way and this way. So you need to put those dimensions in, and don't worry too much about the material. Let's click OK here, and now with the spacebar I can rotate to get the placement. So, or at least get the right angle. But notice that the base point is going to the centre line. I'll show you how to fix that afterwards, but also we've got to look at the depth, so, or the height essentially, so, or the height option. So there, just make sure you set that to height, just a little thing in Revit. And then the base, you can see there, I don't have an option for the base in Properties with columns. You need to set that, well in this case I'll need to set it afterwards, so I'll come back to that, but always think about your heights. And then I'm just going to place one for now on that grid line, and you can see it's got a concrete material, so I'll just, let's see, we'll get the wall there, so I can just show you the material. Okay, so it's got that finished material, and I know we haven't done a lot with materials, but here it's a good thing to look at, because with the columns you can always check the material in the properties. And it's good to do that before you copy them, that's all. So now I'm just going to move this using the Move tool and snap it onto those points on the drawing. And then, again, just using copy, I can copy that all the way to the other end. So it's, again, just using the grids as a reference. So that won't take very long once you've got the grid lines and the columns set up. Oh, and I'll leave the corners. And that has now gone into my wall. Oh yeah, because that wall is still set to the width. It should be on the ground floor, but on this level it is less. So I'll take that wall down to level 1. And so the columns aren't exposed on the ground floor, are they? It's only on the upper.
Something, but we can
Yep.
expose them.
Oh, you can if you want
Although
to,
I
yeah.
suppose it's the walls being thicker on the ground floor anyway.
It could be, yeah, it could be. So, well, yeah, it depends how they've done it. But, yeah, it's definitely possible. So, well, what I'll show you is if you want to have them with the thicker wall on the ground floor, then you can always just draw a new wall on level 1. And so I'll do that. The width there would be 250. Yep, okay, that's good. I've got a wall for that. So here I can just draw a new wall, 250 along that side. Yep. Okay, so I just wanted to show you in the 3D view how it should look. So that's essentially what you want in the end. And so for the corner columns, you can just make another column size for those. And if you've done one row of them like that, it shouldn't take long to then copy them. So for the center columns, you can easily just you can copy those. And here I'd use the midpoint on the side, and that way you can go to the midpoint of this, or to this grid line. So that's, yeah, that's my upper level wall. Show you the 3D view, so I'll delete that. And now with these columns, right, so the size there, you might have to guess, or just nominate a size.
Yeah, I think that's what I'll just go for the same thickness as
The wall. 400, yep. Yep, so that'd make sense. 300 or 400 would be about the size you'd want anyway. So, so I'll duplicate again, just like you're probably getting used to with your walls and your floors. This is how you make all your sizes. So 380 by, yeah, we'll do 400. Okay, so that's my new size. So they'll all change and hopefully be centered. Yep, the way they would be. It should be on the grid line. And then the other columns on the opposite side, I've just selected those with a window. And with the grid line now, are there columns down on this side? They're not shown on the drawing. Yeah.
You'd assume that it would be built
You'd think so, yeah, because,
the same. The roof
yeah,
structure's the same.
yeah. And it just looked like in the photos that, yeah, you could see them on both sides. But, oh no, here we go. Well, they've got some, that's a, you know, a wall they've added in there. So who knows what's behind that. But let's see, they've got, definitely these are the piers over here. And yeah, I'd say there is a good chance it's on both sides, but can't be sure. So, well, I might just leave it for now with the columns on the one side, but just so you know, if you do want to have them down on the opposite side, it's a simple thing now with mirror pickaxes to simply choose that center grid line that I have, and that'll just flip them down there. So that's one of the beneficial things you have when you put the grid lines in like this. You've got the center set out and all of those important things that are useful for doing your design and other things. So anyhow, that's at first though going to be enough, and then I'll just finally with the columns, I want to take those columns now down to start on the lower level, which would probably make more sense for those, especially the columns in the center. So I'm going to right click with one of them, select all instances in entire project, and now I can set the base level to ground floor, so they go down through the floor. And then to see what's underneath that floor without hiding it, this is the thing I was going to show you that will help you maybe with your other project as well. I'll duplicate my 3D view, Doesn't matter which option here, either of those. Rename it, and I'll call this 3D working something, working view. And the floor there, I'm going to select it, right click, and then override graphics in view. So I've shown you hide in view, you can use all the options there, but override graphics in view is another useful one. I'll just do it by element. And then I'm just going to use surface transparency. And then I'll take that up so that it's a bit higher. In other words, this will make the floor that much transparent, 42% transparent. Apply. And now you can already see it's transparent. Okay. There we are. So now I can still see the floor, but I can also see what's underneath. And that's, for isometrics, really useful, especially with the designs you've done for your last project. That could be a really good way of showing more detail. So you can do that with any object. So this wall, exactly, yeah, and maybe even those two walls, or these. So yeah, again, yep, and then either by category or element probably. That's right, exactly, yep. So again, surface transparency. I'll just take it up a little bit higher. They don't need to be all the same, and you can get some really interesting things, which graphically are fairly advanced actually compared to some other graphics tools that you have. So yeah, think about those different options. I'd say next week we'll be starting on the what's above, the parapet and the roof structure and everything else, but have a think about that maybe during the week. So the truss there is going to be the main thing. Until you've done the truss, there's not much point putting the roof in there. I can show you how to do a quick roof that's the right angle, but it's better if we do the truss first, and that way we'll work out the angle for the roof lining, and then the parapet we'll do at the same time. But if you get a chance to have a look at the building, that'll help a lot. I'll try and do it as well, but otherwise, oh yeah, if you're stuck for things to do, have a look at the openings as well. But I'll finish it there anyway, and let you work on whatever you need to.